Okay, this is a Denison Vane pump that's coming here for repair. And I talked to the mechanics. It's always good to talk to the mechanics. He told me that it's leaking out of the shaft seal, okay, but it works okay. So that's good information to know. What they did is they bought a new pump. It's a big corporate business, and they can't afford to be down, so they just bought a new one, and they're, $3,000 unit. This is off a piece of industrial equipment inside of a plant operation. So what they'll do is they'll have me check this out and then repair it if we can repair it, and then they'll put it on the shelf, and then when the other one starts leaking, boom, they'll pull it off. They'll have a spare. This is a Denison, and you don't just run down and get these out at your local store. It's a special order OEM pump, basically. So that's why we're doing this, planning ahead and doing the preventative maintenance. But first thing you want to do is we're going to try to look at the code in here. It's a T6EM-R. Usually the R or L will determine the rotation. So we got an R on there. So I'm going to say right hand rotation. The way you determine rotation is you always face the shaft towards your belly, okay? And then you look at which way it turns. Okay, so if it's turning this way, that's right hand rotation. Okay, if it turns this way on your electric motor, that's left hand rotation. So you're always going to face the shaft towards your belly, ports usually up, okay? And these could be caulked differently. This could be down there, depends how you mount it, but normally your pressure port up, belly towards you, and if it's a right hand rotation, the shaft will be turning this way. So that's right, it's turning right. Okay, so don't get confused, because if you turn it over here and it's turning that way, all you're going to say is left hand. It's always determined when you face the shaft towards your belly which way it's turning. You got to know that. If you walk up behind the pump, say the electric motor's out here and the thing is turning this way, okay, that's like, well, that's left hand when it's going like this, but that's wrong. You're getting the wrong rotation because it's turning that way. The way you determine that, it's got to be the shaft's facing. That's right hand rotation. So you need to understand that, and you definitely don't want to do it. And it could be left or right. It just depends what it is. A lot of stuff's right hand rotation, but you could have multiples of these, and it could be a left hand rotation depending on how it's all set up. So we don't know. I'm going off the code off the pump. It's a Denison. It's a decent unit, but I'm saying it's right hand rotation, but we're going to check that. So we're going to pull these caps off. We're going to disassemble it and take a look, do an inspection on it, and then we'll throw it in the parts washer. Okay. Sometimes I can tell by looking in here what the rotation is. But the problem with the it feels like it's locked up. The problem with the Denison is the vanes are square vanes, so you can't really tell compared to like Vickers that has a pointed. Okay, it's turning. Just want to say we're going to get it apart. But what you're going to do is, what I like to do here is we're going to, before we split this case, we're going to punch mark this, and I'm going to use the number 1 on this housing. Okay, you don't have this kind of punch. You can use just a center punch in doing it. Okay, I just put 1 and 1. That way, if someone else comes to put this together, we know that, okay, you need to hit that a little harder, but we know that, it's going to go back because someone else is working on it. And, we don't want to send it back and then it sits on the shelf for 6 months and they go to put it on, the plant's down and they put it on, it's a wrong rotation. So just for good measure, you're going to want to mark that. We're just going to look in here. Once we do the inspection, determine if it can be fixed. At minimum, this would be because of what the mechanic told me. He said it was working fine, it's just leaking out of the shaft seal. So it'd be a shaft and a bearing no matter what. And then we're going to look at the cartridge to make sure. So we're going to pop this off. Take a look at the cartridge. And so you just basically have the housing, just do a general inspection. Usually nothing goes wrong with that. Set that aside. Then we're going to try to pry this off, pry the cartridge out. And let me get a block for this. Okay, it's acting. Get a couple bigger pry bars here. Let's see why. For some reason that's a little tight. I don't like that. That's not normal. Okay, we're going to check that. Why that? Okay, there it's starting to go. Okay, I got it free. Let's get this down here. Okay, got the cartridge out. Let's take a look at this. Okay, it's got a bearing, but so you're going to replace the bearing anyways. The seal came out. The seal kind of feels brittle. You want to make sure you don't. That sits right down on there like that. That seals the case in there because you got the intake, and that makes sure you got to get the seal kit for this. And these are square seals. But let's pop this shaft out real quick, and then we'll look at the cartridge to see if that was correct. And then, you know, I think it's just going to be a seal kit and a bearing for this unit. Let's take the shaft and look at that. You always want to replace the bearings automatically. Don't mess around. I mean, the only thing would be is if you're in a real jam and say that you didn't have the bearings going to take a while to get, but yet the machine's down in the plant, you could temporarily just get it back together if you had a shaft seal for it. Now this Denison's, I have a lot of seal kits here, so I'm able to do this that way. And sometimes I do have the bearings. It just depends, but from a maintenance point of view, okay, pop that out. You're just going to look. The bearing feels okay. You can see that the shaft area, we'll put this on the lathe, but the bearing's real smooth. You could get away, but we always change them. Feels good, but it's just we're going to change it anyways. And so the seal was leaking in there. Let's see if we can see anything. I mean, okay, it looks like maybe the seal's got a cut or something in it. Let's knock it out and take a look. But it was leaking, so let's pop it out anyways, just to look at it. Let's see if we can see, determine if that was correct. But it's always good to talk to the mechanics to find out what, yeah, well, it's not real clear, but he said it was leaking on here. So let's go to this now. This cartridge, check that bearing back there, the brass bearing. Okay, so this thing, yep, I can see the cam ring has got an arrow going up. So it was like this in there. The arrow is going up, so that means right-hand rotation. So just for kicks, just for good measure, you got a left or right punch. And I'm going to punch a right letter on here for right. Okay? And the reason is because we just want to make sure that we know it's right-hand rotation. So that's punched in there. And that way, if this thing sits for a week or longer, and then someone else has to come put it back together, we know, because we're all on the same page. Now, one other thing we're going to do here before we take this cartridge open and look at it is mark it, because this I've seen a lot of problems with this. This gets confusing on the rotations. Unless you're doing this all the time, you know, you could get confused on how this cam goes. So what I do is I take and I scribe a V with a carbide tip, a V scribe across this. Okay, that way, just a little triangle. That when this is put back on there, I can look at it, double check my work. There it is right there, that I know it was put on the correct way. And the reason I'm showing you that is because I've screwed them up before, but I've made the correction. So I can always double check myself. When this thing leaves here, I know that it's correct. Okay, there's no question, and I could double check my work and verify that it goes back the way it came in. Okay, and that's a lot of problems that happens when you have a lot of different people working on things, and they may not have the experience you have, or you're training somebody, you don't know what they did. Okay, and even myself, you know, if it sits for a while, I may forget because I have a lot of stuff. So you got 2 screws in here. We're going to take a look at this. This holds the cartridge together. I'm going to take a look real quick and we'll know. And then this will go to the parts washer, and I'll get the kit ordered, get it back and set it back on there on their shelf. And it could set for a year. But they have one, because you don't just run down and get these. Okay, it's an expensive little unit. You're going to pull the cap off. You're going to look on here. Okay, you want to keep that all in there, but you remember I scribed it. You're going to look at, see how clean that is? That's where it rides. There's no scars or anything. It's pretty cherry. Now, you're going to look at this cam. Don't get all confused. Look at my scribe. I want it right there, so I want to know. I'm going to lift the cam off. Okay, they're spring loaded. But I needed to do that and look and see if